So, over the weekend, me and three lovely friends, Ollie, Holly and Sam, made a game in 48 hours for the 2020 GMTK Game Jam. It was our first ever jam and it went fine, I think. I mean, the game we ended up with is pretty jank, but what it lacks in graphical fidelity and functional code, it makes up for in rugged charm. And also, just so you know, while our game is suitable for all ages, this video is going to be a little sweary. So look me in the eyes and promise me you're not going to tell my dad. Or your dad. Let's just avoid our dads. The theme for the jam was out of control, and when it was first announced we had a little trouble coming up with an idea we were all happy with.
So you could have a game.
Worm.
Okay, I like it, keep it coming. So far I've just got Microsoft Whiteboard up with the word shitting written on it.
But by 9 PM we'd settled on a concept and we were ready to start development. I drew up some very impressive placeholder sprites and got started on code, while Holly and Ollie started work on some pixel art that wasn't just different coloured squares. This feels like as good a time as any to mention that I'm pretty much dog shit at coding, and the whole game is held together with the power of duct tape and prayer, so if you find yourself looking at the screen and thinking, this guy's a chump, you are valid. I am a chump. So with a little time and a lot of half-remembered Sean Spalding tutorials, I got basic player movement up and running. Nothing fancy, but if it works, it works.
Okay, it doesn't feel great, and now suddenly the character is permanently moving down.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Ollie made a shelf.
Wow, damn. Oh my god.
A shelf.
It sure as hell is.
While I struggled with collisions, Holly and I had an intellectual debate about the need for art to adhere to reality.
Am I giving the bull balls? Because every bull image
I
that I'm
think
getting
the
is...
bull should not have balls.
I agree.
Next up, I implemented Holly's new bull sprite and started work on the state machine to control the bull's AI and movement. This was actually surprisingly easy. Since the bull basically just yeets itself, I gave it a direction and some speed using GameMaker's inbuilt speed and direction variables, and then asked really nicely if GameMaker could just make it work. And it did. Mostly. This bug actually never got fixed. It seemed hard and I just didn't want to, so we're calling it a feature. At 10:30 on the first night, I decided to stop recording footage, which in some ways was dumb, because I ended up staying up until 4 AM working on the game. Luckily though, I made a depressingly small amount of progress in that time. I implemented some sprites, added a shelf object, and wasted far too long failing to make the bull bounce off of stuff, but nothing that actually warranted staying up that late. So yeah, don't do that, it sucked. Oh, also our artist friend Ben Golding turned up and drew us some lovely plank floor textures. Thank you, Ben. At 9:30 on Saturday, I picked up where I left off, feeling absolutely terrible. No one else was up, so I just listened to depressing music alone and regretted my life choices while adding a nice little indicator to show when the bull intended to charge. I also attempted to add pushing shells around, completely fucked it, and ended up with a slow, terrible system that felt and looked horrible. I actually made a comment talking about the better way to implement the system, and for some reason I just ignored that for about 6 hours while getting increasingly depressed. This was a real low point in the hero's journey that was this game jam. It was 11:30 and I didn't like the way the game felt. I didn't like the core gameplay loop, and I essentially had no faith that we'd be able to make anything worth submitting by Sunday evening. I even talked about overhauling our whole system and more or less starting again. Thankfully, Sam talked me down. To make things worse, we'd been using GitHub to log and merge our changes, which was going fine until we decided we wanted to commit them to the master branch. At this point, we ended up with approximately 1 billion merge conflicts which had to be resolved one by one, and every time we resolved them all and tried again, more appeared. We spent a good 3 hours solely trying to get it working before I eventually succumbed to a much needed depression nap. I woke up to a message from Sam saying that he'd solved the issue. I have no idea how GitHub works, or what was wrong with it, or what Sam did to fix it. All I know is that he's a very good boy, and I love and fear him in equal measure. I went back to the project with renewed vigour and added the shelf pushing code that I should have used from the beginning. It was instantly more fun to be able to push and pull shelves at full speed. I'd also forgotten to ever slow the shelves down again once the player let go of them, but that ended up being so much fun that I just left it in. Suddenly I felt excited about the project again and made a checklist of features we wanted to add with Ollie, who had used the time that I had spent sulking to add a busy state for the player because he's a grown-up capable of facing adversity. He also made the bull's charge indicator arrow look more like a railgun charging up, so obviously that was a massive improvement. We spent the rest of the night working together over the magic of Discord screen share to add customers, Chinaware, keep track of customer item requests, and make sure that it matched up with the items on the shelves, so that if you played perfectly you could always fulfill every request. This was by far the most complicated bit of our code, and we spent hours writing and debugging it, but by the time I went to bed, at 1 AM, the whole system worked as intended. Having learnt from my mistakes and gotten a good night's sleep, I returned to work at 8:30 on Sunday with just under 12 hours to see the project home. Basically all of the game systems were in place at this point, meaning we had an entire day to handle all the stuff we'd been too busy to think about until now. Also, sorry I didn't record any footage on Sunday because I was too busy and scared, so enjoy some dramatic recreations. I started the day by adding some screen shake whenever the ball hits a shelf. I actually loved doing this. The code was simple, but it made such a big difference to the feeling of the impact. Next game I make is going to be just screen shake. I also made an incredibly ugly placeholder main menu and level select screen, then grovelled like a worm asking Holly to make them prettier, which naturally she did. Meanwhile, Ollie drew up a lovely tutorial screen. Next we worked together to have the ball burst into the room, and had a lot of fun planning how we were going to mess with the unsuspecting player. I spent the majority of the day adding and debugging a flawless results screen while Ollie wrote the theme for before and after the ball bursts in, and polished up some of the more janky visuals. At 5 we submitted a sort of first draft, and we had just about enough time to throw together some very slightly different levels and submit our final build at around 7:40. Naturally, at about 7:55 we found a bug that made the game crash to desktop, and also realised we'd messed up some of the levels without realising. We didn't have time to fix that stuff, so please enjoy it in the released build. I'm stupidly proud of our dumb ball game. It was occasionally pretty horrible making it, but that was mostly my fault. There's also at least 3 other Bull in a China Shop themed games submitted to the Jam that I've personally seen, but my dumb bull game let me have a nice time making something with my friends, so all the others can suck it. I'm joking, I'm sure they're really good. Yeah, that's the end of the video. The link to the game is in the description if you feel like playing it, and if you like it, maybe you could leave a rating, and if you don't like it, definitely don't leave a rating. If you're interested in all the horrible, horrible code that went into this game, let me know and I'll make a video going through it all and explaining it. Have a lovely day. Bye.